Welcome to this podcast for National Schools Training, School Business Management Diploma Level 4. The topic area is Managing School Facilities, and I'm looking at Module 4, School Catering. The purpose of this podcast is to provide a brief insight into how a school business manager may become involved and lead this area. It is particularly relevant to those working in smaller schools where pupil numbers mean it is challenging to provide a meal service without running at a financial loss. The school where I led this project is a small school in a rural location in the north of England. Children come from surrounding farms and villages. The area is classed as rurally deprived, but the school only has around 5% of pupil premium. At the time of undertaking the project, the number on roll was 40, but due to achieving an outstanding rating in Ofsted, the roll has increased to 55. Historically, the meal service was provided by the local authority catering service. This was run on a county-wide basis, which meant individual schools were not responsible for any loss or surplus of the meal service. Overall, the scheme ran at a surplus. This resulted in lack of incentive by the meals provider to ensure that the quality and choice of the food was of a high standard. The service were reluctant to engage with schools at any level. In April 2012, the service had to be delegated to schools. This meant that the individual schools' budgets would receive any surplus or deficit from the scheme. For unknown reasons, schools were given about 4 weeks' notice of this newly delegated scheme and did not really have time to source alternative providers. It was apparent that small schools would struggle to break even. The pricing structure includes food, staff salaries, a management fee, testing and certification of kitchen equipment, and a payment for depreciation of equipment. The school does not force children to stay for all 5 days in a week, but they do need to inform the school on a Friday of their intention to stay the following week so food orders can take account of numbers. In the first year, the school made around a £3,000 loss. In the second year, a new cook was appointed and the deficit reduced to around £1,500. At that time, we started to look at what could change. The cook was completely on board with making any changes and she was involved in all discussions and brainstorming sessions. The first thing I did was change the seating room arrangement in the dining hall. The old arrangement was that packed lunches sat on one table and the school meals on another. This discouraged some children from taking a meal because they wanted to sit next to their friends who had a packed lunch. I was able to change this because it was a small school. I then consulted parents. They asked whether their child had a meal, what did the parent like or dislike about the meal service, what was the child's favourite meal, and if they didn't take a meal, was it because of price, quality, choice, or another reason? We got around 40% of surveys returned, but this only accounted for around 10 families. For those not taking a meal, results showed that price was not a particular issue, and it's more to do with the child disliking a number of the meals on a very rigid menu imposed by the catering service. Parents strongly disliked the airline-type trays we had. The menu changes termly and runs on a 3-week cycle. It was apparent from when children stayed for a meal and also for the amount of food thrown away, which were the popular and least popular choices of meal. I was surprised that soup was very popular. The cook and I then using the standard 3-weekly menu, reworked it. We removed all the unpopular dishes and introduced new ones using the popular ones as a starting point. For example, chicken korma was the all-time favourite, so we introduced chicken tikka as well. We introduced a pattern of food types. For example, it's always a fish dish on a Monday, a pasta dish on a Wednesday. The dishes change, but the food type does not. This makes it easier for parents to plan. Before, if parents could not remember what was on the menu on a particular day, there tended to be a dropout for the entire week in case the disliked dish was served. We have pizza on a Friday and allow a different class weekly to vote for their healthy topping. Myself and the cook considered the food nutritional guidance to check whether the changes complied. We then had to make the cook's manager to ask them to agree the changes. He was very receptive to the changes and suggests we also offer a snack that children can purchase at morning break. These were things such as bagged sultanas or bread or watered fruit juice. He also suggests we offer jacket potatoes, provide a choice, but parents were less keen on this, and some of the obvious fillings don't actually fit in with the nutritional guidelines. Throughout the year, we offer community lunches and themed meals to fit with the curriculum topics. The themed meals prove very popular and actually quite easy to do, and mostly involves renaming dishes with a few minor changes. When reception children come in for their introductory taster sessions, the first visit is in the morning, and we ask the parent and the child to stay for a school meal. We do not make a charge for this. Prior to the introduction of the universal free school meals for reception to year 2, we achieved a small financial surplus. We have 100% take-up of the free meals, and take-up remains high for year 3 children. We have replaced the airline trays with plates and purchased a dishwasher and other small kitchen equipment using the government funding available for small schools with the introduction of the universal free school meal. The school meal service continues to operate, producing a surplus, and we have remained using the LA as a provider. I hope you have found this illustration interesting.